Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. Austin and Linney in the house. We have Miss Myers here. How are you doing, Christine?
I'm doing great. How are you today, Austin?
I'm doing great. So, big day for you. So you sent off the book to Amazon. So that's a big deal.
Yes.
It's got to be a weird feeling to put your work out there for scrutiny.
It absolutely is. Let the reviews come in now. I'm gonna hit send when we're done. It's like, oh.
I was joking with somebody yesterday. I said, here I am running a multi-million-dollar business that has 75 parts to it every day. Supply chain, parts, guys, install, customers, blah, blah, blah. And my only reference point is a 2-sentence Google review, whether or not we're doing our job. I was like, what a world we live in, that my entire year is based off of some random stranger knowing if my guy didn't piss off the person or not. You know, like what a world that we've created in business, that is my clerical feedback, right?
Yeah. We've tied our full value to one guy and one self.
Now I will say we did turn a 1-star review into a 5-star review, and it felt like I moved heaven and earth.
Oh, you absolutely did.
Yeah. Not only that, we came in 5,000 cheaper than our competitor, so it was like a win-win, like all around. So, you know, it's just, those are the things like people don't. I tell my team all the time, you know, good news doesn't travel far, bad news travels fast and quick.
Absolutely.
So I want to give everybody a little context about who you are, what you do. So I'll let you kind of take it away.
Yeah, so Chrissy Myers, 2 big companies that I work with right now that are mine, AUI and Clarity HR. So AUI is health insurance benefits for individuals and small businesses. And then Clarity HR is small business fractional human resources for companies that do not have, cannot afford, or do not want a full-time HR person in their organization.
Okay.
So,
and then what are the 16 other things that you do as well too?
16 other, all the other things. So I am co-captain of Team Awesome Sauce. That's what we call our family. So Steve, my husband, and I are co-captains. Maddie and Caleb, 15 and 11. When you're a blended family, you have a purpose statement, a mission statement, and a whole bunch of core values. So some people say you treat your business like a family. I go, no, we run our family like a business. You know, the fun stuff. No. Our business is like family. So that's kind of how things are for us. And then on the nonprofit side, several different boards, Goodwill Industries in Northeast Ohio, Jobs for Ohio Graduates, the Greater Akron Chamber, and then my favorite, which is the County of Summit Alcohol, Drug, Mental Health Services Board. I'm their vice chair. That is a government organization. It funds about $60 million of taxpayer funds to mental health and addiction services throughout our county.
Yeah, so you're currently CEO of 3 companies.
And CEO of 3 companies. Yes. So AWR in Texas.
Yeah.
Yes.
You wrote a book, all those things. So many different reasons, right?
Yeah.
Well, what I think is interesting, right, is and I'm using that as a reference point. Do you know what 75 hard is? Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So I'm just using it for a reference point. It's like people find out you've done 75 hard, they're like, okay. Like all they have to hear is that you've done 75 hard, so they know 10 things about me within that statement, right? Well, I could turn around and do the same thing for you. So meaning that I've met 3 or 4 people that know you, and the first thing they go is, oh my God, Chrissy's absolutely amazing. She's my spirit animal. I love her to death. So like them saying, and these are people that I respect dearly. So it's amazing how life, you know, you're just saying, okay, well, if they say she's great, then we know she's great, right? And then I meet you. By the way, I'm trying to make her uncomfortable. And then I meet you, and you're even more amazing in person. You know, you obviously weren't always this on top of your stuff, and I'm sure some days you feel like you're not on top of anything. but I find your disposition to how busy you are. And I don't know if it's because your mission is so high. I don't know if it's because you've done a lot of personal development, but you seem, even though it might be a little chaotic sometimes, you seem like you stay on the optimistic, positive side. Is that true? Or
Yes.
yeah, has that
Yeah,
served you well?
it has. I would say it's been something that I've had to work through. I mean, I grew up in the insurance industry. So AUI is a third generation family business. So you want to talk about chaos and always thinking about worst case scenario. I think that was my upbringing to some degree, just because of the nature of the organization and the business it was. I gave myself an ulcer in fourth grade just because I was a constant worrier. So I think that there's been a lot of growth there. And
Yeah.
I've learned how to manage and mask it to some degree. But I will be completely honest, there are absolutely days where I don't feel positive, but I'm honest about it. Someone says, "You having a good day?"
Mhm.
Not today, but I know tomorrow will be better.
Okay. And is that a subconscious like habit that you're like, because my thing that I'm trying to get on is like, everybody says that like happiness like is, this thing, but I think happiness and joy is something you work for. I think it's something you
Absolutely.
work on, right? Because
Yeah.
like, especially in small business, you can understand that it's never gonna be perfect. There's gonna be fires, but after you get in so many fires, you realize that, hey, this is just kind of the way it is.
Yeah, it's finding that center. So, like, where is your calm and where's your center? So, for me, there are four things that I need to thrive. I need to stay calm in the middle. I need challenge. So, I need the opportunity for growth for me. I need consistency and routine. So, some things that are just going to always stay the same or constant. I need my calling and my purpose. And then I need connection and human relationships. So, if I have those four things, no matter what the chaos is around me, I can kind of navigate that calm feeling and perspective. And you're right, Austin. Like, things blow up in the small business world all the time. There is not a day that there isn't a fire that you're going to have to put out. But it's that perspective and that understanding of, this is what I do. I have been called to do these things. I know that I can accomplish it. It may not always know what it's going to look like. I may not know how it's going to turn out, but I know that I'm capable of accomplishing it. And that's where I'm
Yeah.
centered and where I'm moving forward. Does that help you?
100%. I told my father last week, I said, so I got punched in the mouth 30 times this week. There was 16 fires. The team had a great week. I'm stressed to the max. I didn't sleep one night, and we had some big checks come in. I was like, does that sum up about 46 years of your small business? He goes, that sounds like a typical week to me. Great
Yeah.
work, you
Yeah.
know? But it's amazing how much that translates into your own personal life too. Is that there's a lot more. I don't think I knew what actual trust and belief was until I entered small business. Like,
Yeah.
I think belief and trust and optimistic behavior. I think if you don't have it, whew, it's gonna be a really rough road for you, because you kind of have to. There's weeks where you're like waiting on big checks, and then the big checks come in, and then you're all like emotionally you're fine again, and then like 7 days later, it's like, okay, here we are again. Like there is, I tell everybody, you don't actually have any business issues. It's only personal issues wrapped up in business, right?
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. I mean, have you met those business owners that just seem grumpy? They're just
Yeah,
not.
all of
Yeah.
them. Yeah, 60% of them. Yes. Yeah.
And then you meet those that are just, how are you happy all the time? Everything is burning down around you. Like, it's the state of mind and the perspective. I can choose to be happy in the situation, find the joy, and find at least the one good thing in all of it. Or I can be miserable and just make everyone around me miserable and live a miserable life. So, I mean, in that situation, that perspective, I'm always going to choose happy. It doesn't mean that I'm going to have the outcome that I want, but I get to choose how I respond to it. And sometimes the only thing that I have as a small business owner is the ability for me to choose how I want to react to it. Because some of these things are going to happen. You're going to lose customers, you're going to gain customers. Checks are going to come in, checks are going to be late. Eventually in your life, if you've been in business long enough, you're going to deal with a lawsuit. You're going to deal with an employee situation. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is to build your emotional intelligence skills and build your resiliency skills so that you're able to handle those things. And then you don't necessarily take them home to your family. So,
and that's where I want to move now. Like
yeah.
your husband does the commercial real estate side, you help him with that. He's focused on that. You've got your 3 jobs, you got the book you're writing, you got all these things. Like, anybody that's listening out there is going, I don't know how she does it all. You know, I've asked you this question. We've talked about a lot of different things around it.
Mhm.
How do you, because you work from home a lot, how do you separate work from home?
So it's a combination of a few things. I mean, part of it is creating a structure and a system for yourself that you can live in and thrive in. So for me, I am a very early riser. And I know that if I want to be present for my family, I need some quiet time by myself. I need a little bit of quiet time to get organized in the morning, get a couple of things done, and then I can be present mom while kids are getting ready for school, everybody's moving in that direction, and then I can set off in my day. So I mean, that's part of it is structure. The other part is creating those parameters around the family, which is when do we turn on and when do we turn off? Now, the small business dirty secret is that you never really turn off, but it's when will I intentionally say, I'm not going to look at my business right now. We're not going to have a conversation about the business. We're going to just be family. And the other part is that it's building that self-care skill. So one thing I talk about in the book is that there are 2 things that every small business owner needs. The first is building their resiliency skills. So interpersonal effectiveness, emotional intelligence, distress tolerance, and then finding that what else, which for me is serving in the nonprofit community. That what else that drives your business beyond people, beyond profit. Because let's be honest, Austin, if we just wanted to make money, we'd have jobs. We wouldn't have businesses.
Oh, I'd be a killer. Dude, I dream of this magical world where I was just this like mercenary sales guy making a $500,000 a year, working 4 days a week and just turning it off at 4 o'clock, like, and not ever thinking about it again. But you talked about something that's so important. 9 times out of 10, when I meet my clients, I call it a circle of life. Like these are the aspects that make up you as a whole. And the problem is that we're only focusing on the areas we make money instead of being fulfilled. Perfect example. I had a client, a very high earner. He said, my favorite thing to do is play golf. I said, when's the last time you played golf? He goes, 3 years ago. I said, bullshit. I said, take 2 days off, go play. He played, his whole life changed. Now he plays once or twice a week. And it's like, you can still make 5 million a year and do things that make you happy. And there are a lot of things that I do that don't scale, but they make me happy and they fill me up to show up in other aspects of life.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't put weight on them because they're so focused. We have created this culture with small businesses and Instagram and everything like this. We feel like it needs to be 24/7.
And everything must be revenue producing.
Everything has to be revenue producing. Yeah, it's like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Exactly. How about life giving? Let's talk about what the revenue is to your life engine as opposed to what it just is in making money.
We call it ROL, return on life.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, because it's the truth, right? Because I wrote about this the other day. I think that what we've created with society and the social media networks is everything is short term. Everything is short term. Look, I got a client going through something right now. I said, look, does it matter in 5 years? She goes, no, not a fucking thing. Okay, then what the fuck are we doing? Move on. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Younger client. Hey, I'm going to jump around to this other job. I said, that's great. I said, but let's talk about what we really need out of this thing. You need a job that makes you money, that doesn't bother you while you're trying to figure out you're building business. Yeah. I said, so take something that's going to ask this much out of you, give them what they need, you making money, and then you can go do that. I said, you're 27. And I said, you've removed your ego from your dollar amount that you need to make because it doesn't matter. And I said, so let's do something that's going to serve you. So in 30, you can retire and just own your own business. Yes. I said, none of your friends are thinking like this. None of them. So no, they're trying to get to the highest platform so they can signal that they've made it when that means nothing. Because I said, dude, you're 27. I said, bro, you got 70 more years. I said, what do you want? Well, I'm going to start this wholesaling business. I'm going to do this. And I go, yeah, that's great. But that is such short-term anxiety and the flows. I said, do you really want that? He goes, no, I don't think I really want that. But But that's not the decision we make, because the decision we make is, well, I need this money. I said, what do you need the money for? Well, no, I'm actually pretty good right now. Okay, well, then you don't need the money. So, but the money is what we strive to, instead of understanding like what we want in our life to like pull trigger. There's like 4 things, like that's it that I'll do right. That's it. And those 4 things really only revolve around the people I get to do those 4 things.
Mm-hmm.
Not the money.
No.
I'm not gonna see a lot of this money for 5 to 7 years. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, we're farming right now, planting a ton of seeds.
Mm-hmm.
It's not harvest time, it's planting time. And I think that's where a lot of individuals on the small business side, the side hustle side, get hung up. They forget that there is a serious time investment in kind of what it takes to grow things long term. And they see the success, but they forget, what you're looking at right now with where I am is 20 years of career. It is 10 years of really digging in leadership. It's 5 years of hard business ownership after a 5-year family business transition and a startup. So, I mean, I think that's the other piece of it, Austin, is that it's so easy to discount time on the social media side. Somebody reads a Facebook post, somebody sees a LinkedIn article, and they're like, oh, they just got it all figured out. And it's like, no, this is what figuring it out looked like through 15 years of really hard work and slogging through the mud and doing all of these things to build my emotional intelligence skills, to build my business acumen, to build relationships that just now are starting to pay off. But that's a 10-year investment in some of these relationships that are finally starting to have a return. I think you've got that perspective as as you're designing your life. You've got to plan your life. Mandy McAllister says this: we plan your life in decades and you live your life in moments. And I think that it is so important to really think about that. And also seeing that people see your life in moments, but they don't realize how you've planned your life in decades.
No, Jay-Z talks about all the time. He said, all y'all here are trying to emulate my success instead of the process.
Yeah.
He said, you didn't see what happened. He said, you're seeing it afterwards. So you're trying to be this, but you don't have the steps to get to this.
Yes.
And the thing is that I've just made peace that I'll never arrive anywhere. There's not a point in life. This is when I was, back still drinking and really like started getting a personality. I had a guy that I really respect, and we go through this long coaching, like a couple months. And like the last thing he said to me was like, he's like, Austin, you'll never be as happy as you need to be if you realize there's nowhere to get. He said, the moment that you realize there's no stopping point, there's no end point, it's all progression. He's like, until you can kind of center around that, he's like, it'll never be what you need it to be.
Oh, I love that.
It's the truth, right? Because I think I told you when we met up, like I only want to run races I can't win, because that's the way my mind works. So I only will climb mountains that don't have a top.
Yeah.
Like, because I need to be evergreen challenged. I need to be challenged till the day I die. So the way to do that is to marry a woman like I'm married. Because you'll never win. You'll never win. No, I'm just making a joke, but it's the truth. It's the truth. If you ever want to feel that, small business, you can always make more money. You can always hire more people. You can always get better. I love those things that have constant daily refinement. And it's a build case for getting better daily. There's some joy in problem solving, but also just trying to solve yourself within the problem.
Yes. I think that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, is there's always something else that you can be doing. There's always a pivot. There's always a new business. There's always a new idea. There's always a new way to structure it. Unless you absolutely want to be, there's no stagnancy. You're always moving. You have the potential to always have forward momentum, forward growth.
So I'm fascinated by people that do podcasts or do books. So you had this idea for the book. How many times when you're writing it did you say to yourself, who the hell are you to be writing a book? I'm just curious. Like, was it 65? Was it 175 times? Like,
Oh, I would say it was probably like 175 times a minute, depending on the day. I mean, right, like I started it with, let's talk about how everyone can have a what else for their business. And then it turned into, because this has been a 3-year process, it turned into, more of those life lessons around, if we were to have brunch, how would you answer this question? How would you transition to family business? How would you deal with building your resiliency skills? How did I grow? Because a lot of it isn't like learn from me, I'm the expert. It's learn from me, I was a disaster depending on the day. So
mhm,
that some of these, if you can get there faster, why wouldn't you? I mean, everybody
mhm,
likes a hack to know, hey,
mhm,
can I get here a little bit quicker?
mhm.
But to answer your question, constantly. And there are still times, Austin, where I'm like, I'm getting ready to put together marketing content and put together some things on LinkedIn and post. I'm like, who are you that you think anybody cares what you have to think? And it's like, you know what? I'm just going to be brave and I'm going to try. And if somebody doesn't like it, then they don't like it. But I also know there are people that can benefit and can be inspired. And hopefully I get the potential to learn from more people, because that's part of the entrepreneurial community and the small business community, is that it can be so helpful to one another to be able to reach out and say, hey, I've got this issue. And somebody says, oh, I've dealt with that. Here's what I did. You're not necessarily telling me what to do, but you're at least sharing your story and enabling me to figure out, what is the right answer for our organization or for me personally. I love collaborative learning and opportunity around that.
I remember one of my favorite stories of all time. There's this dude who's this, I mean, he is a savage, like sales. This guy has no website. He makes so much damn money from putting on groups and marketing and sales. He's the man, right?
Mhm.
So my buddy told me that him and his wife own a business online, and there was 10 couples that they paid 5,000 for the weekend at a crazy place in Montana. They went to the meeting. He stood up in the room, he talked for 5 minutes, and he said this one question. He said, what is something that this group can help each other with in their business? He never said another word the rest of the 2-day retreat. The people that were there fixed each other's businesses for them. And
Yes.
I think it's such an amazing viewpoint to say that you're paying for the expert, but it's, like Grant Cardone talks about, it's, you think you're paying to come see the people on stage, you're paying to sit next to the person next to you.
Yes. Yeah. The power of collective intelligence and the willingness to share it. I think that's where I think society is starting to change, especially in the small business community, is we're breaking down those silos and being far more collaborative around how we feel as business owners, not the acumen of what we do, like the finance part, the hiring part, the operations part. Fine, that's like a million business books, but really the how do you manage your energy, how do you maintain your relationship with family? I think that is where we're starting to move in small business ownership, and really starting to talk about the dynamics that keep the small business owner healthy. Because here's the secret, Austin, if we keep small business owners engaged in their businesses, if they love the life that they're living, they're naturally going to radiate that to their employees, to their business, to their community. And small business changes the world by being willing to just talk to each other about how they can thrive together.
Mhm. So true. And I think one of the things I'd like to hit on is, like, I see this every day. I'm in talks right now as it sits. 27-year plumbing company. Kids are off in college. They want nothing to do with the plumbing
Mm-hmm.
company. Nothing to do with the plumbing company. So the dad's like, well, I don't know what to do with it. So they want to sell, but he's not ready to sell. So it's going to be 3 years, but he wants some help right now. And so, you took over a family business. I think it's a very important conversation. There's so many dynamics. I was never going to be a dentist. God bless my dad. So good luck with that. But 9 years of school, no, I don't think so. So that I knew that wasn't a thing for me. But navigating the emotional waters of buying a family business,
Mm-hmm.
how does one go about that in the first place? Because there's so much history
Yeah.
there. Mhm.
Yeah. So good question. Probably a long answer. Couple of things. So first of all, if you're talking like first generation to second generation, I think that's a different conversation than second to third or third to fourth. But the first is, primary business owner, first generation, is this an entity that you absolutely want to pass down? If it is, I think that's some cultivation that you have to start doing early on. Because if you have an unhealthy relationship with your family because of that business, no child is going to want to buy it or work in it with you. So that's the first part, is if you want to have a family business that stands the test of generational time, unless it's ridiculously wealthy and everybody just wants it for the money, which newsflash, most people don't. They want it for the relationship first. Build a relationship with your kids, with whoever you want to transition to, and make sure that it's a healthy business where everybody would want to be, because it can't be a space where there's a lot of stress and frustration and anger around, you spend so much time in this business, but you don't spend any time with me. Because it's almost like you're asking that second generation to purchase the child that they grew to hate because it was the third kid in a relationship, or there's one kid in the relationship and this is the other kid. The business is another baby. So there's that piece of it. If it is a healthy business, if you do have healthy relationships in the family, what I will tell you is that anybody who thinks that a family business transition is going to be easy is most likely lying to themselves. There are going to be times where it's uncomfortable because you're talking about a lot of different things. One of which is, are you going to die here? Or do you want to transition to the beach? So you've got to have that conversation first. And that was one that happened in our organization. And it wasn't uncomfortable. It was just assumed. My dad was not going to leave the organization. He was going to die in the seat, and he did. My mom wanted to transition, but after he passed away, we had to deal with grief of me losing a dad, her losing a husband, and then trying to figure out what we were going to have within this organization, try to transition. Because initially, if my dad was alive, the thought was eventually the business would transition to me and I would not have to buy it, because they were both going to die in the seat. However, with my mom, it was, oh no, you're going to have to buy it. So there was that piece of transition around the understanding of what we needed to do. And there's some things that we did well. And there's some things that we did not do well. We had screaming in the driveway of, you're going to sell me the business or I'm going to quit. I mean, it wasn't pretty. We did go to therapy, the two of us, because we had to learn how to talk to each other. So that was part of the transition to be successful. And when she said we're going to go to therapy, I was so mad at her. I went to therapy so that I could deal with going to therapy with her. So it's been beneficial to me. I'm still in therapy now. I love it. But it was that learning how to talk to one another, because there was, Mom, we had a really good relationship.
Yeah.
And then we had to deal with this business piece. And then I had to transition and deal with, I have a brother that has never really done anything in this organization, but for a long time, he was treated very similarly. So we had to work through some of that. What do terms look like? And here's the other part, Austin. I've been in this organization for over 20 years. There was a period of time where I was not CEO, but I was responsible for a significant amount of growth. I doubled this organization in size and then had to pay twice as much for it because I grew it. I think there's some lessons to be learned there around negotiation and transition, especially as you're going to be that second in command, or you're learning how to drive the car without necessarily owning the keys to the car. There's got to be some conversation around how much am I going to pay for growth? Because I mean, and our situation is, it's not unique. There's a lot of second generation, third generation who come in, pivot the business in a different direction, take it and grow it exponentially, and then are like, oh wait, I'm responsible for paying for your retirement because I'm going to buy the business. How do we transition over time so it's beneficial for both of us?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things we keep running into, is that they're not per se ready to go now.
No.
But they want to talk about it and they want help because they're tired of doing certain aspects. So one of the things we're playing around with, and each situation is unique, is like, let's get the business valued today.
Yes.
And then whatever we create with you over the next 2 years over that, we take 50%, you take 50%. That way we at least have something tangible,
yes.
because we're selling off market businesses. And some of these guys aren't ready to go. We're like, we can get you 10 million now, or if you work with us for 3 years, we can get you 18 million. Give us 4, you take 4, boom. And I think that's really the only way to do it, is to understand you can't. One of the greatest pieces of advice I ever got in my time, I used to work for a billionaire in San Antonio. His wife's family owned Pace Picante sauce. They sold it. This guy was so smart, so chill. He sold them the business for 4.3 billion, and they were only allowed to use his tomato fields to make their sauce. So not only he said, yes, right? He said, Austin, so he bought 26 acres in San Antonio, which is called the Pearl, which was the worst area of San Antonio. Now it's the most popular area in Texas, at 13 hotels and food halls. He said the dumbest thing he did was to not buy every single building around him, because he bought into his own value that he created.
Yeah.
Because all that stuff was dirt cheap. He said, I should have just bought it, because now I had to pay 100 times more, 500% more, because I spent, a couple billion to develop this area. He goes, that was the dumbest thing I ever did. And it's the truth in life is that be careful with the things around you. Go ahead and own them. Like, there's an internal battle that you can, if you want to get weird on Twitter, and like people have very firm stances on this. You don't want to own the real estate of the business that you own. You just want to rent it, right? So you have more flexibility. Me personally, I don't want anybody to have control over me and what I can do. I want the real estate. I want the business. That's how I roll, right?
I agree. So, I'll fight you on that. Good luck, Twitter.
Yeah, but that's just me, right? And so, and just because I don't want anybody chirping in my ear, I don't want anything to change. So you have to understand how you operate as a person, but then you also have to sit in your parents' seat or the seller's seat, and you have to understand that this is their baby. What's the emotion behind this thing, right? The complexity of the situation, how scary it is to sell your identity, because that's what they're doing. Right? There's so many reasons why, there's a lot of nuance in buying and selling businesses that people don't pay attention to.
Oh, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head with their relationship. This is their baby, especially around if they have not had a balanced life and, balancing family, community, and business. If it has all been this entity that they've created in this organization, you are stripping their identity for them. So I will tell you, for me, a sure sign, because I've dealt with a fair amount of insurance transition. We bought a lot, acquired a lot within our organization. If that person, that individual who's selling to me, has only done one thing their entire life and their full identity is tied into it, that transition will take me no less than 5 to 10 years to even cultivate the transition itself. But if this person has multiple businesses, has a really good family dynamic, this is something they do, but it doesn't completely define who they are far more ready to hand things over and to just sell and move on. The other thing I would say is, as you're working on transitioning family business, if you're in that seat and you're second or third generation and you're starting to have those conversations, it's really important to get your leadership involved in other things, whether it's community focused, a different hobby, travel. There has got to be a what else that takes them out of the business and drives them in a different direction. Otherwise, they are never going to hand you the keys that you bought.
There was a guy, we didn't buy it because the broker sucked, which tends to be the case most of the time. But this guy, I talked to him, he wasn't ready to go. He would have worked, but he just wanted to go fishing. And so I would have bought him a boat and required that he go fishing twice a week and still work on the business, because there's value in that. I don't think people understand that I don't need every part of you, but I need to understand the different, and that's why it's so hard to value business, because are you in a rural area? Are you in a city? Those two things are different. What's the marketing in each is different. What's the relationship you have with your customer? Do they have a lot of options? If they don't have a lot of options, then it's all about reputation. If they have a ton of options, then it's all about marketing. That's why I love business, because you can never win it, and it is never one size fits all. Now, don't get me wrong, you can rinse and repeat overall viewpoints, But no matter, the insurance business where you are and the insurance business where I are two totally different things. So that's why I get so excited about it, because of the complexity.
Yes, every small business is different. They have different stories, different heart, they have fingerprints. They're just, everything is unique, and it starts with that business owner. Then what I would say is I talked to a group of women a couple of weeks ago about small businesses investment. And they were looking at, is a small business a good investment? I said it can be, but here's something that you need to understand, those of you jumping into small business ownership right away. If that business can't survive without you, you did not buy a business, you bought a job. So we have to have that conversation too around, what is sustainable and what isn't. And I love what you're saying about transitioning a business owner and having a real thought out plan around, hey, you're going to go, we're buying you a boat, we're going fishing. Like, those are the things that I think in transition make it easier to exit. When you have some of those things that you would think that are maybe more off the wall, that aren't necessarily in a traditional contract or purchase agreement, I think those are what make things work well.
Because at the end of their business, right? And I'll just use my seller, he's been in the business since he was 16, he's 66, the last 25 at his own company. For the last 5 years, he's only doing what he wanted to do in the business. Everything else was delegated. He just wanted to do commercial design, commercial sales. So it was a lot easier for him to be done. And he has other passions. He has an Airbnb in North Carolina. They drink wine, they travel. So he was done. But a lot of these people, and I'm not trying to be morbid, but if you took away their job, they're not going to be around long.
Correct.
Right?
Their identity is tied to that entity and that entity alone. And I think those are important. Yep.
And so for you to not pay attention to that and realize that they're scared shitless,
yes.
You got to take that into account. It's got to be soft transition.
Well, and if you can navigate the emotions around that opportunity, I think that's where the real value in small business acquisition is. It's not in buying a business that's been held by private equity to another private equity. I mean, those are great as far as just cash flow. But if you're talking about the opportunity to really grow an asset, a lot of times these small businesses that are generationally owned, they are sustaining, but they're not necessarily peak performing, because you've gotten to that point where this is comfortable. I'm happy with what it does. I'm happy that it's growing at a modest rate, but we don't have to have exponential growth right now, because I'm happy with where I am. I'm satisfied. But navigating those relationships around the transition for that business owner, I think it can be a wonderful opportunity. And it's a gift in giving them the ability to retire, to be able to do something else if they truly want to. Because what I hate is seeing those individuals not transition. The business, that owner passes away, and then you're dealing with family trying to transition that business where they don't understand it. And that's where I think those businesses can really, there's an opportunity for predatory investing, but at the same time, that's where I think the damage happens, because those employees can get hurt. Market share can drop dramatically because it was tied to this business owner. And then while the family's trying to transition in that estate moment, I think that's where a business can really get harmed. So if you can catch that business owner at the right time to transition and really guide them through the process and managing the emotion piece of it and giving them a project and a process to follow, I think that it can be extremely beneficial, especially for them.
No, if you're looking to sell your business, you got to it's a 3-year process.
Yes, at least.
And that's on the minimum. Yeah. Yes. So, the
book you got your crap together.
No, the book that changed my life was Built to Sell. It's just one of those things where it teaches you, you always be building a business ready to sell, just because you're going to build it better, right? So, yeah. So if people want to find out your book, they want to track you down, how would they do that?
So the book's called Reluctantly Resilient. It's on Amazon. And then if you want to track us down on HR, it's clarityhr.com. And then insurance is auiinfo.com. So.
Yeah, wonderful. Guys, run out and grab that book. If you got some value from this, send it to a friend, and we'll see you next time.